Alrighty, tubers, got a brand new one here. We've got a Ryobi Ryi2200. I'm going to crack it open here, pick this guy up and a different Honda knockoff generator today. Knowing nothing about them, I'm just gonna try and get these things running. Got a fuel pump there. It looks like a Walbro fuel pump, pass through of some sort. I have never dealt with or played with this style of generator before, so it will be a learning experience for both of us. All of us. It's got oil in it. Very interesting setup in here. I see engine here, and then like a crankcase and more engine, I guess. I don't know where the... I know this is an inverter style, but it still doesn't make a ton of sense. Got a random hose hanging out the backside here. Looks like it was just shoved in there. Let's go ahead and pull this side off. Should be where a spark plug or something like that is, I'm imagining. This Ryobi looks like it's been beaten up pretty good. Yeah, there's a spark plug. Like I said, it's a really interesting design. So it looks like the engine is here and the generator would be here, or inverter style, whatever, is more here, and then the pull string is all the way on this side, which is just interesting. The the fuel cutoff, engine and fuel shut off, is a screw. It broke off, so somebody stuck a screw in it. Let's run or restart. Yeah, looks like there's a CDI box in there, coil. Looks like an original spark plug, original branding at least. Looks like there's an air filter here. No air filter box, which is just wonderful. I guess you don't really need one on something like this as much as you'd need on... Would be nice to have one though, because it looks like it pulls the air from underneath instead of in the hot area, or on that hot enclosure. Looks like it goes up into there. Let's go ahead and I'm going to put a little splash of fuel into it here. Not a whole lot, but I'm going to put a splash of fuel. And we're going to go ahead and try starting it here. He said he had it running once upon a time, and he gave up on it because he needed to tune it and he couldn't get it to tune. I'm 90% sure there's no tuning on these carburetors. Let's go with that. Like I said, just a splash, not a whole lot. Don't feel like we'd need a whole lot in this. How much fuel does that get us? I really can't see the fuel level here. There's no fuel level. No, it's got enough in there. Probably a mixture of what I just put in and what was already in there. So we're in the run position. Got some carb cleaner. Just spray in there if we need it. So run position. Is there a choke? I see a choke. Auto idle is off. Not seeing a choke anywhere, so we're gonna go ahead and try starting it. Give it a little bit of help here. Alrighty, so another funny thing he told me is like, oh, it needs a $100 carb kit, and I'm just not going to put that into it, or something like that. I would very comfortably say that it just needs to have the carburetor cleaned out. I haven't confirmed that it's getting fuel. This is a choke, so that's off, I guess. Halfway is a cold start, which would be a choke, and then all the way that way is run. So this does have a choke. Alrighty, so phone overheated. Shut my video off, but it gave me a little bit of time to pull this guy apart. Somebody's definitely been in here. Some of these screws were missing. But what it took was taking all the screws across the bottom on both sides, taking the back cover off, and then I don't know if there's any screws on the front. If there are, they are missing, and it popped right up. So this is what we're looking at now. And what I am seeing is that I don't see any fuel going to that carburetor. I opened up the bottom of that carb. I don't know if the video shut off before or after I did that, but no fuel is coming through to the carburetor. So it may not be the carb at all. It may actually end up being the fuel pump here, which I'm sure aren't that expensive. I'm going to go ahead and unhook, like I did just now, unhook the fuel line. Going to start it up again with a little bit of carb cleaner. If I can do that the way that's sitting. Well, I don't think that's getting any fuel. So what I'm going to do is set up a gravity feed setup running to the fuel nipple right there. We're going to see if we can gravity feed this thing and see if it will start off of gravity feed. Alright, so what we got here is a fuel line. It's actually coming from my motorized bicycle tank, which has a mixture of a little bit of two-stroke with just straight gas as well. Still haven't gotten that thing running as far as this video is concerned, whether this video comes out before or after I get it running. But we've got gravity feed going to it now. Just a big long fuel line. Take it like that. So I wouldn't choke it. Well, as you can see, that runs pretty stinking good off of gravity feed. One thing I did notice though while I was gravity feeding, fuel was still pushing past the carburetor. As you can see, it's actually dripping right now. So it looks like it's running really good actually off of gravity feed. In other words, that fuel pump is definitely dead. Guarantee you it was probably guarantee and probably shouldn't be in the same sentence. I am pretty sure that fuel pump died because of ethanol fuel. Ethanol is just bad stuff. It's no bueno. But we're gonna go ahead and find another fuel pump for this. I need to pull this carburetor off and clean it anyways because we're already here, might as well. But it is also leaking fuel with just gravity feed even while it's running. So either someone's been in there, pulled the carburetor apart and put it back together incorrectly and pinched something. Not sure exactly. So I'm gonna go ahead and get some parts ordered for this guy, and we will see you after the parts come in. Okay, tubers, we've got our carb kit in. It's more than just a carb kit. I will put the link to the description down in the description. Comes with a fuel line, some fuel hose. Whether I use that or not, I'd probably just reuse what's here or use stuff that I have. It's much higher quality. Seeing as this is all encased, I'd rather have really good quality stuff in here. Comes with a new fuel pump. And then it comes with a new carburetor. Comes with a fuel filter, which looks relatively good quality. The one in the picture on the ad for it looked way worse than that one. Comes with a couple of these guys. Comes with a clip, which I figure we're going to find out where that goes, and then a spring, I guess. Also comes with a spark plug, BP6E. Everybody online says to chuck it. Not necessarily chuck it, but save it for something else, because I guess the spark plug that's in this is completely different. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. Yeah. So as you can see, spark plug is completely different. This is a mini spark plug. This is not. So that'll be good for like a Honda lawnmower or something like that. But like everybody said in the reviews on that item, the spark plug is nowhere near close to the correct one. So we're just going to reuse that one. We're going to go a little more in detail in this part of it, showing you guys how to take this off and replace it. I'm not going to skip over anything. There's an 8mm bolt right here I've already taken out. There's 8mm here, 8mm there. Now there's, that guy will come off. There's a hose up here that goes to the breather. There's a hose here and a hose on this side. Those all will come off. This guy slides off. There's a seal that you will reuse. I'm going to slide this guy forwards. There's a fuel line that goes from here to here. Hopefully you can see that well enough. From here to here. I tried to look for one of these. I haven't found one yet. Really, I just need the top part, but this will, it's working right now, but I am looking for another one. So what we're going to go ahead and do before we take the carburetor completely off is break these screws loose. It's going to be easier that way. So as I'm unscrewing that, whether you're using a Phillips flathead, what have you, the thing to do is not just to put it on there and start twisting to try to loosen it up. What you're going to want to do is push down, keep the force down into the screw head to not strip it out, because it's really easy to strip out screws. must have some Loctite or something like that on them. That one is not moving. We're gonna need a Phillips for that to see if we can get it to break loose. Because no, one side of that screw is already stripped. Okay, go find a Phillips. My kingdom for a Phillips head screwdriver. Finally got it. So what I ended up doing, couldn't find the right Phillips head. Took a bunch of stuff home with me the other day to work on some projects there. And little did I know, I took like all my Phillips head except for like 2 small ones. Whatever, these work. I took these 2 screws out that I'm putting back in right now. I ended up taking these guys out and rotating the whole assembly back and forth as I tried to loosen this up. And finally got the dang thing to break loose. Those sucked. That's probably, out of everything so far, the hardest part of this job. Hoping you guys don't have the same issue. I would definitely suggest using a number 2 Phillips on that instead of a flathead or anything other than a number 2 Phillips. I just took this guy off. Everything else is loosened up. Pull that off gently. This top part wants to move. Gently take this guy off. Take the carburetor off. Go ahead and set that back down. Oop. Like that. Alright. Carburetor's off. Let's do a quick inspection on these 2. Exactly the same. In fact, they're even made in the same place. Same carburetor company. Japan. So this is a good quality kit. Again, I will be putting the link in the description. Go ahead and place that guy back in there. There's a small chance that we might need to set the idle. So we aren't going to put the top back on after we're done putting this together. Gotta hook up the choke control here, like so. Let's take a look here. It's all the same. Got to double check and triple check and look at everything as you're putting it together. Let's see. What is this? Number 1 Phillips. Yeah, I wish I had a number 2 Phillips, but I don't. This one's working, but it's not the right tool. Not the right tool for the job. Yeah, I was very surprised to see that these carburetors are made in the same place. Usually when you get a kit like this, they're knockoff and they work, but they're just knockoff. Yeah, there's definitely some Loctite on that. Will I be putting Loctite back on it? No. I won't be. Loctite has its place, and this is one of them, but I will not be putting Loctite back on that. I don't think screws like a Phillips or flathead or any of that type of screw should ever have Loctite on them, unless they're a very critical part. Something that if it came off, the thing would blow up. On a spaceship or something. I'm just gonna get this guy back in there. That one's still very stripped out, and I wish it'd be nice if the kit came with new screws, but it doesn't. Just making sure it's fully seated again. this guy screwed back down. On the back side here, make sure you guys are still recording. Yep. On the back side here, there's a electric motor that runs your throttle. You want to make sure there's a little tab here. Let me show you. Like I was saying, motor is right here. There's a little tab. You can see it right there. It's hard to see. There's a little tab that sits inside the throttle and actually can move the throttle around. And you want to make sure that that is seated in this little area on the carburetor. I'll show you on the old one. That right there is where the motor sits down inside. You want to make sure it's seated inside there correctly. As you can see, it is seated inside that little area. Figured out where that spring goes. Again, motor for the throttle. That spring goes in between there. It was missing when I pulled this apart, so it made it really difficult to figure out where it went again. But I looked over at the spring and it kind of clicked and went, hey, I bet you I know where that goes. And that's exactly where it goes. Fits in there perfectly. Alrighty, so I'm going to start sliding everything back together here. So carburetor's on. Again, I'm still looking for a new switch for that. It's going to be a bit of a hard one to start here because the top of the carburetor, the top of that part is plastic and it has no threads in it. So you're actually making threads as you're screwing this in. Just make sure you're getting it straight. It'll be good to go. Checking the function of it. What has changed? Something has changed here. Oh, you know what? That's what's changed. This is off by one. It needs to be on the other side. This is the reason why you do functionality tests when you're putting stuff together. Because this has, let's see if you can see it there. Flat side on this side, flat side on that side, and nothing to differentiate the two from each other. So I'm going to have to take this off, spin it around to lock on to the other side. Or just open this guy up and install it again. Just try to get it to fit on there again. Nope. Off again. There we go. Put that guy on. There we go. So in the resting position, it's straight. And that would be correct. Just popped off. Why you pop off? No, you pop off. Why? Why you do that? Did it? I feel like it popped off. Oh, that's still on there. Just popped up a little bit. Oh, did it again. So quit doing that. Okay. Check the functionality. That's run, choke off, that's choke on, and that's off. It's interesting that when you shut it off, it chokes the engine. I wonder when the fuel shuts off. Let's check that real quick. So it doesn't shut off until it's in the off position. I have an old Honda generator. It was earlier in the channel. It wasn't too long ago, so you could probably go find it. With the on and off switch on that, when you go to almost off, it actually shuts the fuel off completely, which is nice because you can run the generator completely out of fuel before you put it away, which really you should be doing. So, that guy's all back together. I'm going to come around to this side. I'm going to go ahead and replace the pulse fuel pump. Now the pulse fuel pump does just that. It uses the pulse off the crankcase down below here, and it goes into the bottom of the fuel pump, and when the piston goes up and down, it creates a pulse on the bottom side in the crankcase itself, and that pulse, pulse. I'm trying to find a different word for it. Anyways. But when it pulses, it actually flexes the diaphragm internally and inside. We'll pull it apart near the end of the video, and I'll try to show you. But it actually pulses and moves the diaphragm, which it has one-way valves on the in and one-way valve on the out, little check valves. And it actually will pull fuel up and send it out to the carburetor. So, let's go ahead and get this guy hooked up here. There's caps on here. You make sure to pull the caps off before you stick your new fuel lines on. Your pulse line will hook up to the middle of the fuel pump. As you can see, middle of the fuel pump, that's where the pulse line hooks up to. There's a tear in that pulse line, so we're going to do something about that. Your in is in the bottom, your out is on the side, and that'll loop around and go to the fuel. Let's go ahead and fix that line real quick. We might just end up replacing the whole thing. See what we can do. So, a bit of an update here. Figured out where that spring goes. Again, motor for the throttle. That spring goes in between there. It was missing when I pulled this apart, so it made it really difficult to figure out where it went again. But I looked over at the spring and it kind of clicked and went, hey, I bet you I know where that goes. And that's exactly where it goes. Fits in there perfectly. Alrighty, so I'm gonna go ahead and get the filter box on here. A tip of mine to you guys: when you pull a bolt out of an area, put it back where it came from. That's the one that holds the actual air filter box on itself. And I just stuck it back there, and guess what? It's not lost. So we're gonna go ahead and get the gasket here. Is that the right way it goes? Yes, it is. Let's see. Guy goes there. Like so. Guy goes there. This guy goes upside down right here, and then these guys go here. Just reassembling, as it were. Make sure these guys are put back into place, and don't squeeze on them too hard. You can stretch them out pretty easily. The kit did come with some new ones, but I'm going to reuse the ones if we can reuse them. Let's see. There's a breather that went there. That's this guy right here. Coming off the carburetor. It's new, so it kind of confused me a little bit. Yeah, that guy goes there. Because as you can see, old carburetor, old tube goes over to the filter box. The fuel lines that are on this really don't look all that bad, so I am going to reuse them. Because this isn't going to be a piece that I am going to sell afterwards. This is going to be my personal piece of equipment. If it's something that's going to be sold afterwards, I almost always kind of go above and beyond and replace just about everything. Wow, they really bury that, don't they? Trying to get to the fuel line in here. There we go. Let's see if we can get it in there without having to pull that filter box off again. Well, I did have to pull that filter box off. Fuel line runs from the carburetor up to this guy. I did put the clips back on. We want to make sure they don't interfere with anything, including that switch up here that tells the computer that the choke is on. Son of a diddly. The interesting thing is with these things that they're so compact that everything has to play nice with each other. This sits right next to that sits right next to this. If you don't use the right size of tube, nothing's going to fit. Like, it's very fiddly. There we go. Put that clamp back on. Somebody else had been in here before me, so some of this I didn't pull apart, so I'm having to figure out how it actually goes back together. All right, let's go ahead and continue on with the fuel pump here. Like I said, I cut that fuel line, or that pulse line down a little bit because that had a cut in it, but it is actually perfectly long enough to still make the loop without making a kink. Just as simple as reassembling it, as long as we don't have to pull the air filter box off again. Alright, so we got a fuel line with a little metal sleeve on it off the old fuel pump. This guy's gonna go on here. Again, we're just reusing the fuel line. In fact, I think the fuel line that came with the kit looks pretty good quality. It actually does have some braiding in it, and it might fit in a couple places. Not sure it would fit in all of the places though on this generator, because everything's pretty compact on this bugger. I don't know what that metal sleeve is, but I'm going to leave it alone and leave it there because it's there for a reason. Whether that's to stop this from vibrating while it's running, I don't know. Fuel line. Now this fuel line, I do think I am going to replace. This is the fuel line that's in the bottom. It's always filled with fuel, and it is quite squishy and soft. So I'm going to go ahead and replace this guy and the fuel filter that's currently in here. I don't think that fuel filter is original at all, because that's a Briggs & Stratton style that you really only see on Briggs equipment. Oop, we're spilling fuel out here. Just trying to get that to sit somewhere. Sit, boo-boo, sit. Let's see. Pull this guy off. We are actually going to use the fuel line that came with the kit to replace this, if I haven't already said that. So there's the old fuel filter and hose. Let's see if they gave enough here. With the new kit, definitely gave enough. Probably gave enough to do all the fuel lines. Let's see, it looks like they sent larger clips with that fuel line, so we'll be using that larger clips for the larger fuel line. Kind of self-explanatory here. And one thing you always want to make sure too, this fuel line wants to be bent in this direction. You don't want to be using it in that direction. If it wants to be bent this way, you should use it in that direction and not bend it the way it doesn't want to go, because that's when you end up with kinks and other issues. So we're gonna gently get this on that plastic nipple. It's really, really, really tight fit. I'm trying not to break it. That's good enough. It's not seated all the way down, but I don't think it needs to be. Fuel filter will go somewhere in here or somewhere in here. We might put it right here, actually. You always want, there's a filter inside, it's pressed up against a wall or sealed against a wall. That is the out. This is the in. You want to see the particulate get caught. You want to see the condition of the filter, so you always put it in that direction. Some filters will actually say flow this way, some won't. Well, there is a little arrow right there. Like I said, it's a pretty good quality filter. I've had filters come with kits before, and I usually chuck them. I don't even entertain putting those things on anything. Wonder if can I do wide angle? Nope. There we go, wide angle. You have to stop the video to start wide angle. Got one more clip here, or two more clips. One to go on this side. I am going to be running ethanol free in this, like all of my equipment, ethanol free always. There's lots of reasons for it. Biggest reason, it doesn't eat up diaphragms in fuel pumps. It doesn't eat up carburetors. It doesn't cause damage that ethanol does. I think I'm pretty happy with that. I'll have to see how that works, how well it works. Let's go ahead and put some fresh fuel in it here. I'm gonna go ahead and leave this guy open. I need a filter box cover for this, whether I make one or buy a new one. I probably won't be making a video on that, but so this has been pretty much a complete and utter disaster, one thing after another. So the fuel pump that came with this leaked, and that is an issue that like one or two other people had with this kit off Amazon. That the fuel pump right out of the gate, it leaked. I have contacted the seller of it, see if I get anything back. It seems like he's a pretty good dude about getting you taken care of. I took the new fuel pump apart. I took all the diaphragms out of it. I took all the diaphragms out of the old pump, which are stretched. They're not crispy, but they're stretched, and I guess they weren't doing the job. I put them in the old fuel pump that has a better body, I guess. I don't know why the other one was leaking, but I put the new diaphragms from the new pump into the old pump. It's not leaking, it's back together. Let's see if this thing is going to start. This is just kind of sitting on top here. Let's see. It's in the run position. Spark plug is now on. Go ahead and start on a little bit of carb cleaner to get it to pump fuel, if it's going to pump fuel. Well, there we go, guys. It's running, it's pumping, nothing's leaking. Let's see if it produces power. it's quiet. Alrighty, tubers, let's get back to work on this Ryobi here. So I waited some more for parts to come from a very specific website. I'll be ordering from them. Again, I will just continue to use them to find parts and part numbers and order them elsewhere. They took about 5 months to get me these parts. They said that they had everything that I ordered. They said they had it. The plastic piece here, the fuel shut off, the filter cover here, they said they had everything. They ended up not having the parts. They just kept pushing it back, saying that, oh, well, the parts will come in. Well, we're not going to ship everything out until everything's here. Yeah, months and months went by. They kept canceling items off of my order until all they sent me were the side items that would be nice to have. So in other words, all the parts that I actually wanted didn't come. They canceled all of those and only sent me the ones that were available 4 months ago. One correction is I did order that intelligent switch on the front. That's for the auto idle. And that one did come in. Or that one did come in. That was one of the main items that I wanted. But yeah. So here's new filters for it, which really does me no good due to not having a filter cover. So we might have to make our own filter cover at some point. It's just rather frustrating, but just gonna have to do something. Filter, and then the secondary, or the more porous filter that sits down on the bottom, which again isn't going to do me any good because it isn't going to filter through that because there's no filter housing. So, like I said, we'll probably make something for that in the future. I probably will not make a video on it. Either that or I'll keep my eyes peeled on the used market. Haven't been able to find one yet, and it's been months. What we are going to do today is fix this fuel shut off, because every time the fuel shut off and or generator shut off, every time I turn it on and off, it cuts my fingers up because of that screw. We're going to leave that screw in there. We are going to use that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the head off here, and then we're going to mix up some quick steel, and we'll put some quick steel on there and make that a usable piece again. Alright, we're going to go ahead and fix that fuel shut off now best way we can. Run that screw back through. I find it interesting that both, you know what, I need to cut that down a little bit. Both this plastic piece and the fuel shut-off are not available. They're obsolete. Even though this part looks very universal, you'll probably find it off something else. This part obviously specifically to this generator. If you noticed there, right before I started up the grinder, volume gets quieter. Try to do that more so I don't blow out people's eardrums. Hope you can appreciate it. Alright, well, it'll hopefully work alright. I cut the end of that bolt off now, or the bolt. That's not a bolt. Definitely not a bolt. A screw. I think it's like a sheet metal screw. I can already hear some of you saying, well, why'd you cut so much of it off if now it's too short? It's not necessarily too short. I think it'll work just fine. The reason why I cut so much off of it is because the backside was tapered and was not contacting that backside hole all the way. And then the front side, obviously, I cut it off because of reasons. Cut it off because it was a bolt head and that was too bulky to get through here all the time. So this is Quick Steel original formula. I don't know, I'm sure they've got a lot of different formulas out now, but this is just Quick Steel original formula. This is a 2-part putty epoxy. This stuff's actually really old, but it still works. I used it just the other day. This stuff's probably sure more than 3 or 4 years old. I'm sure it's past its expiration. But just wrap it up tight, put it back in its old tube. But it's a 2-part epoxy putty, and you knead it as in knead like bread, not knead as in you need something. Squish it around until it's all one color. Once you've squished it until it's one uniform color, like so, end up squishing it just a little bit more just to make sure it's fully mixed. And then you use it. You got about 5 minutes to handle it once it's mixed. It starts to harden up after that. Around the 10-minute mark, really, you're not going to be able to move it too much more. And then after the 15-20 minute mark, it's hard enough. It sets up. It's not going to move, but I can't remember how much longer after that it actually takes to fully cure. But kind of pushing it back and forth now, getting all the air pockets out, compacting it. This stuff you can grind on, you can change the shape, you can do a lot of stuff with it. So we're just going to get kind of a rough shape here and then get it to set up. It's pretty hard. Okay. Alright. We'll be back after that hardens up. Actually, while that is hardening up, I'm going to come over to the front cover here, and we are going to replace that intelligence switch in the front. Looks like we're going to get through, not through this part of it, but we're actually going to have to go through the front cover. That there was a cover on the cover. Cover here and cover here. That's actually metal. Which is kind of neat. Alright. Just looking at the backside here, kind of inspecting as well. Just seeing what kind of shape it's in. Squeeze on those tabs. Let's squeeze on the bottom one. Push the top one through. pair of pliers for this, or like I'm using a flat-bladed screwdriver. Everything looks good in there. I think anything needs to be tightened. Everything checks out. Just put it back in now. Screw it back down. Okay, so that front cover's back on there now. Here's your intelligent switch. I'm going to hook it up the same way. It doesn't really matter, I don't believe, but I'm going to hook it up the same way. Take off one, put it on the other. Just like that. This one still clicks up and down. Makes good noise, but the contacts internally, you have to flip it up and down like 4 or 5 times for it to actually do anything. This one feels much cleaner, much easier. Should be a lot happier with that new switch. Heck yeah! Alright, so it's been just over, it's been real close to 10 minutes. You can hear it's starting to harden up. Still moves just slightly. That's okay. We're going to go ahead and see if we can slip this cover up and over this without hitting it, damaging, or rather moving. I wouldn't damage it. Move it. Put a little something between this guy and this guy. Fat piece of the old filter. Probably worked just great. That razor blade is dull as a spoon. Good. Like I said, I'm going to keep my eyes peeled for a cover. But let's pretend that I put a new air filter box cover on here. Doesn't that look good? Looks great. Alright. So we're going to go ahead and start putting some of these screws together. It'll be interesting to use this thing with all the covers on it, though. It'll be a good chunk quieter. Yeah, I'm gonna have to just end up going to Ace or a similar hardware store to get some more screws, because I don't have enough. I had enough before, but in the process of storing this, I had all the screws on one of the covers, and I kept them all together, and as we were moving stuff around in my unit, ended up tossing them all. Heck to breakfast. Alright, I made that work. So 3 out of the 4 screws on the front of this generator are from this kit. Harbor Freight, item number 67588. These barely worked. I had to use these ones and those screws, and they only bit on like 1 or 2 threads, but it's working, it's holding it. So there is a piece of a broken off screwdriver on the bottom of this. I just broke a screwdriver off of it. Couldn't believe it. But that screw head earlier that I was like, well, I hope that doesn't interfere with anything. I did end up finding it. So it is found. No need to be alarmed at the loss of that. Put this back cover on now. All of the covers will be on this thing. I think that's done. I can actually pick it up now. He's still in frame. I've moved it 1,000 times. Yeah, you are. Let's go ahead and get it kicked on here. Flip it around. This lever is nice and dry. It's nice and hard. Flip to the run. Let's see. Let's flip to the cold start. Flip to the run. Alright. Looks like that switch works perfectly. Flip to the off. Flips off. Wish there was a little bit. The lever ended up drooping a little bit as it was drying. I wasn't watching it, but restart. Let's try this switch out. The switch is working perfect now. Well, tubers, I'd call that a win. This thing is a heck of a lot quieter than it was. Now that it actually has all the covers on it. All these little rubber, this little rubber pad that I can get put on a little bit better, so it looks a little bit better. This generator is not going anywhere though. This guy is staying with me. I'm going to continue to use this generator. I really like it. It really doesn't burn any oil at all. I'm pretty happy. Even though she's a little beat up, I'm kind of okay with that, because then I don't have to worry about beating it up. Well, tubers, I hope you enjoyed. That's going to be it for this video. For those of you who are wondering what screw size those screws are, it's an M5 by 12 screw. You could probably go longer than that. All those worked for the side cases and along the bottoms, but for the front and back, they fit in some spots. At the top up here they fit. The bottom they did not, so they need to be longer in the bottom half, but I'm pretty happy with that. This is one of the generators I bought as a set, or as in a deal. So I can't remember what I paid for them. I think I paid like $100 a piece. This one was well worth it. The other one, on the other hand, not so worth it. I'll put a link to that here whenever I get the video done. That needs more work than I care to give it right now. So hope you guys enjoyed. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching until the end of the video. If you can hit that thumb up button, that'd be great. Make sure you have your bell icon on, and if I have earned your subscription today, I would greatly appreciate it. So I hope you enjoyed, tubers, and I will see you next time.